I have a very special guest on the show with me this week, TV presenter and author Julia Roberts. Now, not only a TV presenter and author, but also a singer and former dancer. In the 80s, she was a hostess on The Price is Right and a member of the Beatles About Hit Squad. She then became a TV presenter and filmed features for Sky Sports before launching the UK's biggest shopping channel, QVC UK, in 1993, where she still presents today. Now, having always wanted to write, she penned her first book, a memoir called 100 Lengths of the Pool, which sold on QVC in 2013 and has since written 11 full-length novels, 2 novellas and several short stories. My goodness, how on earth does she fit it all in? Julia Roberts, welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. That was a lovely introduction.
Well, my goodness, it was a long one because what a long, glittering career you have had.
It's scary when I think back. It is actually over 50 years in showbiz.
Wow, I love that phrase. 50 years in showbiz, darling.
But
Well,
true.
thank you very much for joining me today. Now, for the listener, because obviously this is radio, we can't see each other, they can't see us. Just to clear up, you are Julia Roberts, the author, presenter, not Julia Roberts, the Hollywood actress.
This is true. And I've heard that many times before. But yes, this is very true.
You've got slightly different accent for a start, so hopefully they've deciphered it from that.
And also a few years older. So I always claim that I had the name first.
So yes, the original. And how's that sort of worked with the writing of the books when they see a cover saying Julia Roberts? Do they think it might be the Hollywood actress that's written those books?
I don't think so. In fact, when I first joined my publisher, I'd self-published 4 books prior to joining my publisher. But I actually was published originally under J.G. Roberts with them because they had concerns about it. But it didn't really concern them when they then asked me to write in a different genre and go back to my original genre and use Julia Roberts because I was then established as an author. Occasionally I get sort of comments on Twitter, people thinking that I am the other Julia Roberts, despite the fact that it says, sorry, it should be X, shouldn't it, these days? Julia Roberts, yes. TV. But yeah, no, I don't really get much of a mix up with her, of course, because she's way more famous than me, so I'm kind of down the pecking order.
Well, you know what, that's in the own person's mind, isn't it, who they think is so. So we're here to talk about your new book, My Daughter's Lies, which is a book about family secrets and lies. It's out now, available on Amazon, also on audiobook as well as paperback and ebook. But also I thought we'd have a bit of fun along the way. I'm going to put my feet up and put my records aside because I'm going to let you take over and choose all the songs for me. Is that okay?
That's fabulous. I love choosing. I am so into music, always have been all my life since I was a little girl. I bought my first record when I was 4. It was the theme from Dr. Kildare.
Oh, wow. That is a very random single to buy. The theme to Doctor, I don't even know how that goes. Can you hum it?
I probably could, Sarah, but all the listeners would turn off. So let's leave that there.
So before we all do that, you've got so many strings to your bow, TV presenting, dancing, singing, acting. But let's talk more about how your writing story began. It was the age of 10?
Yeah, well, yes, it was. Funnily enough, I'd already written a couple of little plays from my contemporaries at school to perform in. One was very loosely based on The Princess and the Pea. And I was only about 8 or 9 at the time. So I kind of have always wanted to write. And then when I was 10, my school, the Jessie Gray in West Bridgford in Nottingham, entered some of the class for a short story writing competition. And I came second out of the whole of the county, Nottinghamshire County. So, yeah, I was very chuffed with that. I won some book tokens presented to me by a famous author at the time in the West Bridgford Library, and spent the book tokens on books about ballet, as you do.
Brilliant. Only second, Julia.
I know. Disappointing, eh?
Not at all. I mean, the whole county of Nottinghamshire, I imagine there was quite a lot of children entering that competition.
I mean, I have no idea, but yeah, I should imagine there was. And I have to own up and confess that it was, I had just seen the film, I think it was called The Incredible Journey,
Yeah.
where the animals get left in a house and then they find their way back to their owner. Um, it was quite loosely based on that, I think, but in my own words.
Yeah, well, I mean, you were 10 years old, and that's what you must get your inspiration from is things that are happening around you, books you read yourself as well. Obviously, my children at school, they're always being told to read books, and when I go in and read all their work, it is kind of loosely based on books that I know that they've read. So it's got to be all part and parcel.
I think that's true. And I think it's true when you are coming up with ideas for new books as well. You don't ever sort of lift somebody's entire life and put it in a book without asking them, unless it's going to be an autobiography, but or a biography, I should say. But I think I'm influenced by life, and because I'm a bit older, a lot older, a lot has happened in my life, so I can draw on lots of different things and different relationships, and how different people would handle it. So it might be a situation that I found myself in, but that I then create a character who would handle it differently because they're not me. So I use a lot of real life situations in my book, but then I obviously give them a twist so that it isn't what actually happened, because then you're in dangerous territory.
Yes, I can imagine.
Yeah.
So we spoke about your childhood when you were 10 years old and winning the competition, but you were born in West Bridgford in Nottinghamshire. You're married, children. Tell us a bit about your family.
So yes, I am married now, Sarah, but I only been married just approaching, it'll be our fifth wedding anniversary in August. But Chris and I have been together for 46 years, I think it is, since 1978.
Wow,
Um,
46 years. That took him a long time to propose.
it was me. I didn't want to get married, and it's strange because I think we know when
Yeah.
things are right for us, and at the time things weren't right. We were happy as we were. I think I would have happily got married in the early days and then didn't want to, and then as we got a little bit older, decided it would be actually quite nice. But what I've never wanted, I'm a terribly shy person. I know people do not believe this about me because I've lived my life
Wow.
on stage in front of cameras. I am really shy. So what I've never wanted is the big church wedding and being the center of attention at a big do. I've just never wanted it. It's not my thing at all. And I've always said if I ever got married, it would be on a beach somewhere with just my family and a few close friends. And that's exactly what we did. We planned it for what would have been my mum and dad's platinum wedding anniversary if my dad had lived long enough, which was the 27th of August. And yeah, so it would have been their platinum, and we had platinum wedding bands made.
Oh.
So yeah, so yes, but Chris and I have been together a long time. We were together, I think it was something like 8 years or so before we decided we would quite like to have a baby.
Hmm.
I was very lucky. I fell pregnant quite quickly, and had Daniel in 1986 in the November, and then managed to have Sophie in January 1988, 13 months later. So
Wow.
they are very close together in age, which actually has worked out really well for me in terms of they are friends. They lean on each other from time to time, which is lovely to see. It means they
Mm.
don't lean on me as well. Um, but it's true. Yeah, so it's. I think I feel very fortunate that that part of my life panned out really well.
And you
And
were kind of in baby zone at the whole time as well, because I've got three children. Two of them are 18 months apart, not quite as near as Daniel and Sophie, but my other one's 4 years above. The oldest one is 4 years above the middle one, and you get out of baby zone, and then all of a sudden you're back in nappies and you're doing it all over again. It's hard work at the time, but it's so much easier to do it in one fell swoop. And like you say, they're kind of best buddies because they're close in age.
And also, I mean, Dan was he was walking at 10 months, never crawled, just got up one day and walked. And he used to, I would say, oh, can you fetch me Sophie's nappies? He was still in nappies himself, and he would
Oh,
go off to the nappy box and bring them over. So he was in a way my little helper.
wow.
But it was great because I was able to spend a lot of time with them. Chris was really busy gigging at the time. He's a drummer, or was. He's retired now, and songwriter. But he was really busy at the time, so it was important that I had a bit more time that I could spend with them. That said, even when they were tiny, I was doing things like Beatles About. In fact, one of the episodes of Beatles About I was 5 months pregnant with Sophie, I think. So yeah,
Wow.
so I worked kind of all through the pregnancies. I was teaching fitness, Sarah, up to
Wow.
up to 38 weeks with Dan.
You just don't like from, I mean, you just don't stop. Are you ever going to stop? My goodness.
I don't
Okay.
know.
Well, let's play your first choice of song. We've been talking about Chris, and yeah, can you tell me what is your first song choice?
Well, Chris and I met in January 1978, on January the 5th, actually. I remember the date well. It's my sister's birthday. And 2 weeks later, he moved in with me. So sometimes you just meet your soulmate and that is it. And after he moved in, the very first song that he had to learn to perform at the club he was working at the time, the Peacock Club in Streatham, was Lovely Day by Bill Withers.
Bill Withers, lovely day here on Real Life Radio. I'm Sarah Booker and still joined by TV presenter and author Julia Roberts. She's just written her 11th novel, which has just been released and is available on Amazon. It's called My Daughter's Lies. But Julia, you've also written 2 trilogies of books, 2 Christmas novellas, romances, thrillers, short stories, and a memoir of your life. My goodness me. Tell us some more about the books that you've written.
It does sound a lot, doesn't it? And I suppose it
It
is really.
does. It is a lot. Yes, don't play yourself down. It is a lot of books. Well done.
Okay, so it all started with the memoir, which is not a chronological memoir. It jumps about a little bit, and it's funny little chapters, all to do with my fitness regime at the time, which was swimming 100 lengths of a swimming pool. And I would get really bored and also lose count and sometimes swim for too far or not far enough. So I associated each length with a number, and then I would associate the number with something that had happened in my life. It could be about a dancing competition. It could be about the weight of grams of breakfast granola I have. They were really weird things, but some of them are really quite sort of serious and meaningful. So that was the first book,
Wow.
which we sold on QVC actually. I had to sign. Oh,
Did
Sarah,
that
I
go
had to sign.
well?
It did. I had to sign 5,000 copies of that book to sell on QVC. And when you walk into a
5,000.
room of 5,000 hardback books, it's frightening. But I
My
did it.
goodness. How long did that take you to sign them all?
The signing room was booked out for 2 days. Yeah, it was incredible. But we got it done. So that was the main.
Wow. Well done you. My goodness.
And we went on holiday at the end of it, just after that had published in March 2013. And we went to Mauritius, where we'd never been before. And on the first day of the holiday, I got an idea for a book, which then, over the course of the 10 days of the holiday, every beach walk, every dinner, I was talking to Chris about the characters, the story, and it developed and developed. And it became the first book, and then I also had the loose outline for books 2 and 3 in the Liberty Sands trilogy, which is what it was called. So the first book was Life's a Beach and Then, and that came to be because I was in Mauritius.
So in 10
Copious,
days, you came up with the whole concept of a trilogy.
yeah.
Wow.
It wasn't that quick to write, let me tell you, because I'd never written a book before. I didn't know what I was doing. I was very naive, and when I started to put it on the page, it just didn't sound right. And then something just clicked in my brain, and I started to tell the story as people. And I think when your characters come to life, that's when you change from telling to showing, which is what you want to try and do with a book. So Yeah. So that was the first book in the trilogy came out in June 2015. Then I wrote the second book, If He Really Loved Me, and that came out in the November of the same year. And then the third book in the trilogy came out in April the following year. Then I wrote a short story because I wanted to see if I could. And it's a silly title, it's called Time for a Short Story, which is available on Amazon, but I'm going to take it down soon because it's actually sparked an idea in my head. My editor at the time did say to me, "Are you sure you want this to be a short story? I think this is a book." And I've now looked at it and decided it's not just a book. I could have each of the female characters have their own book. So I think that's going to make a really nice saga when I get round to writing
Oh,
them.
wow. So you heard it here first. That's the next idea, the next thing that could be coming from you.
Well, not the next one, but it will come eventually. It
Oh,
definitely.
okay. Well, we will wait for that one.
Then I wrote Alice in Theatreland,
That sounds
which
a
is,
great book from the title. I like the sound of that.
well, the thing is, it is based on a girl dancer from Nottingham,
Would
called Alice.
that be yourself at all? Are you Alice?
Well, to all intents and purposes, I'm not, but I was very naive when I first started auditioning. I turned up, please don't laugh, I turned up at my very first audition in London at the Prince of Wales Theatre wearing my pink RAD ballet tights and black leotard with ballet skirt and ballet
Hmm.
shoes. And all the rest of the people auditioning were in fishnet tights, very high cut
Wow.
leotards and high heels and stacks of makeup. So I was completely out of my depth.
Wow. They're all
And
kind of kids from fame.
before you ask, no, I didn't get the job.
Oh, you know what? I would have thought because you'd have stood out and you'd have got noticed. So they'd have had eyes on you, seen your brilliant dancing and thought, yeah, we have her. She's different. We like her.
No, I stood out for all the wrong reasons. But
Oh,
it was a learning curve. And yeah, and that was, I suppose my first audition would have been probably 1973. So Alice is set in 1976, and it was at a time when I was doing the rounds of auditions for theatre shows and club shows and cruises and things like that. So I could write about that period and what went on in auditions and what went on in the world of theatre with
mm.
some authority. So, and I wrote that book really quickly. And then I had an idea for a short story, and which turned into a book, which later became Little Girl Missing. I had got a working title of Cassie Come Home, based on the Kathy Come Home series
Mm.
of the 1960s TV series, I think it was. And so I'd finished writing it, and then I saw a publisher on Twitter. They said, pitch your book in a tweet. So I thought, oh, okay. So I pitched my book in a tweet and heard nothing until the following Monday, when I had an email from them saying, your book wasn't successful in the tweet pitch. However, have you got a full manuscript you can send us? So I did. And at the same time, I think it was just before I was going on holiday, I decided that I would also send it to a publisher that I knew of called Bookouture. And I also sent it to two agents. So I'd never done anything like this before. And then I just suddenly thought, oh, somebody's interested in the book. I know, I'll send it to four people. And on the first day of holiday, I heard back from both publishers and
Wow.
both agents, which was really weird. It was a little bit surreal.
Well, it just goes
In
to
the
show you
end,
what a good book and a good idea it was as well for all these people to be snapping at heels wanting to get it.
well, in the end, Bookouture came back to me and said, we love this book, but would you be prepared to rewrite the end? And that they thought the end was a bit soft.
Okay.
And I thought, well, actually, yeah, why not? I'll give it a go. So I did, took 4 weeks, sent it back to them, and they said, okay, we want to sign it, but we would rather sign you for two books. Can you pitch another idea to us? So I had to quickly
No
scrabble
pressure.
together an idea. And actually, my son was very helpful in that. He gave me a couple of ideas. So thanks, Dan. Pat on the back there. Um, and I sent that to them. And then they said, we love it. Is there a third? So that's how that series came about. And
Another trilogy came about.
well, it is a trilogy to all intents and purposes at the moment. But I love that character, Rachel Hart, and the readers. It's my most reviewed book. It's had over 6,300 ratings reviews on Amazon, and I actually would like to resurrect Rachel Hart at some point in the future. So although it's a trilogy at the moment, I'm hopeful that it might one day be a longer series than that. But again, it's about having time to do these things, really.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And it's a detective series, and they're police crime thrillers.
Yes. So they were written as J.G. Roberts. I think the publisher didn't want my name, Julia Roberts, and they wanted, because it was a different genre, they wanted it to be slightly different. So we decided on J.G. Roberts.
So, I mean, all these books, I mean, we could talk about, you've got so many books to talk about, but just a quick question, I mean, have you got a favourite?
Oh, that is a tough one, because you should never own up to that with kids either, should you? But
no, exactly, yeah. You got favourite children? Is it Dan? Is it Sophie? I'm not going to ask that question. Depends, doesn't it, at the time?
Yeah, different day of the week. I think probably my favourite book is If He Really Loved Me, which was the second book in the Liberty Sands trilogy. There's bits of that that I can't even read without getting tearful, and I wrote it.
Wow, there's lots of twists in that book.
There's lots of twists in all my books. I can't write a straightforward. I keep thinking to myself, make it simple. There's a thing in writing, keep it simple, stupid. Kiss, but actually, I can't. I don't think I'm capable of it.
No, twists are good. Twists are good. It grips you. It makes you wanting more, makes you want to just read that book right to the end in one fell swoop. That's what it's all about. So,
yeah. So I love that book, but there's a character in Alice in Theatreland who I absolutely love, called Gina, and who I was going to kill off. And here's a spoiler alert. In the end, I just couldn't do it. I actually went downstairs and said to Chris, I can't do it. I can't kill her. And he's looking at me as if I'm some kind of lunatic. But yeah.
Yeah, kill who? What are you talking about? Oh, your book. Oh, phew. Okay, we're talking of favourites. Your next song choice, that brings us on to that. What is it?
So the Beatles, of course, are a phenomenon, and I do love a lot of their songs. However, I have a favourite Beatles track, and it's not as well known as most of their others, but I absolutely love the lyric. And it's She's Leaving Home.
There's the Beatles and She's Leaving Home here on Real Life Radio. I'm Sarah Booker. I hope you're having a lovely weekend so far. So I'm joined by TV presenter and author Julia Roberts. She's written 11 novels and her latest one has just been released and is available on Amazon. It's called My Daughter's Lies and it's had some great reviews so far. Things like, this novel flows effortlessly from the page. It's been enjoyable to read. Wowzers, My Daughter's Lies by Julia Roberts is truly an emotional-filled family drama that pulls on your heartstrings. It's gripping, fast-paced and addictive storyline. Great characters, plenty of plot twists and a storyline that will keep you riveted. A brilliant thriller that keeps you turning the pages. I really enjoyed it and loved the ending. And one of my favourite reviews, actually, I mean, there's so many to choose from. One says, 2 best friends have secrets. 3 daughters have secrets. 2 mothers have secrets. 2 other friends have secrets. A husband and a wife have secrets. It was all a huge melodrama. The title indicates that one of the daughters lies, but all 3 of them lie. There's also a dog in the household. I was expecting him to have a secret too. But did the dog have any secrets, Julia?
Not as far as I know, although I can tell you that his name, Baxter, is actually borrowed from my daughter's dog, who is but it's a different breed. So yeah, there's a secret.
Wow. So yes, I mean, great reviews so far and it's only just been released. Can you set the scene for us for your new book?
The interesting thing about the new book is that it's all based around a note. So the mother is Melissa, the father is Steve, and the daughter is Ruby. It's Ruby's 18th birthday party. That's where the book starts. And it's a themed birthday party. So it's themed on musicals. So people have to come dressed in their favourite character from the musicals, because Ruby goes to stage school. And Ruby is, to all intents and purposes, the perfect daughter. She's beautiful. She is very good at dancing. She's auditioning to go to Lane's Academy in Epsom, and she's also predicted straight A's in her A level. So perfect daughter.
The perfect child, yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Melissa and Steve had struggled to have a baby. She is an only child, so obviously they've lavished all their love and attention on her. So we're at the 18th birthday party. Melissa gets up to give a speech, just to sort of say, a few things about Ruby. And as she lifts the pages of the speech, a note drops to the floor. She bends to pick it up, and written on it in red ink, it says, "She's not who you think she is."
Oh, who's she? My goodness. Well, don't spoil it by telling me who's she, but wow.
Well, that's the thing. So the whole book is kind of centered around who is the she referred to in the note and who wrote the note. However, it isn't really about that, because in the end, you find out who wrote the note and the reasons for it. But actually, it's about the different secrets in people's lives, and we all have them. And whether ultimately you keep those secrets and take them to your deathbed with you to protect others, or whether you're honest about everything in life. So really, in a funny sort of way, there's lots of secrets, lots of deception going on, but people not telling the truth, sometimes for the right reasons, if you know what I mean. So
yes.
Yeah.
The plot that you just pictured there at the start, they're at the party and everything, I can just totally visualize that in my mind, and I feel like I'm at this party, and then this piece of paper drops out the book while the mother's doing the speech. I mean, it's got kind of TV drama written all over it, I think.
Who do you know, Sarah? Pitch it to them.
Well, I don't know, probably not as many people as you know, Julia. So yeah. Who would star as Ruby and the mother?
Oh, well, maybe the mother could be the other Julia Roberts. How about that?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, let's get her on the phone. Let's pitch it to her. Okay, so the actual book itself is set in a fictional village on the south coast of England near Brighton, which I live near Brighton. Why did you choose there?
That's a really good question. Why did I choose there? And I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. I didn't really have a location for this book originally. I started to write it, and everything was going along, at the pace it goes along, and it had gone through to the first stage of edit. And then they show you the cover. And they sent me the cover, and it was a woman sat on a wall with her arm round a little girl looking out over water. And that's when Brighton came into my head. And I'm thinking, I actually did think of you and your girls, because I know they're involved in dancing competitions. So I know that there is quite a healthy scene for that in that area. I thought to myself, do you know what? I'm going to set it in Brighton, but I'm not going to have an actual village. I'm going to make one up. So I looked at various different place names around
lots
the
of
salt
Deans. There's lots of Deans.
And then there was one called Brockle something, and I'm thinking, oh, that's good, because I can just put Brockle and Dean together, and it sounds quite nice. I think I'll move there.
Yeah, Brockledine, that does sound a nice place. Oh, I do like the fact that you said, you thought of me and my daughters, and they are in the dance competitions. I'm looking at the cover of the book here, and it does actually look like the back of you, and maybe your arm around Sophie there. Talking of secrets, obviously there's a lot of secrets that get revealed in that book, in My Daughter's Lies, and we've got a secret of our own, which we will get to, Julia. But right now, it's your next song choice.
So my next song choice is a song called The Hungry Years by Neil Sedaka. And I think, listen to the lyrics, because sometimes what we had and what we now have are two completely different things.
There's Neil Sedaka with the Hungry Years here on Real Life Radio. I'm Sarah Booker. Hope you're doing okay. I'm joined by author and TV presenter Julia Roberts. She's picking all the songs for us this evening, and we're here to talk about her brand new book, My Daughter's Lies. But Julia's also had a very successful and glittering career spanning over 50 years. However, aside from working, she's also proud to be an ambassador for the British Polio Fellowship and also helps raise money for the charity Bloodwise, which helps to fund important research to treat all forms of blood cancer. Now, Julia, tell us why those two causes are very close to your heart.
Well, firstly, British polio. When I was 14 months old, I contracted polio. It was in the sort of mid to late 1950s. The vaccine was around, but bear in mind, I lived in Nottingham. My mum had 3 small children, and it was a case of I hadn't actually had the vaccine. Well, none of us had the vaccine at that point because it wasn't readily available. There was kind of a pecking order. And so we'd gone on holiday to Wales. I'd been trying to sort of walk around, toddle around as babies do at that age. And I was a very happy baby, to all, as my mum tells it, who knows. But when we came home from holiday, I was miserable and wasn't trying to walk around. And she took me to the doctor. And the doctor said to her, if you think it's polio, it's not. And my mum took me home. It had never crossed her mind. She'd never thought that it could be polio. And then him having said that then made her wonder. And she rang the surgery the next morning. And this was in the days when doctors actually came out to your house. And a different doctor came out, took one look at me, and immediately called an ambulance. And I was taken away. And I was in hospital for 5 months. I was in isolation.
Wow.
At the age of 14 months. So that was in August 1957. And I came out of hospital on Christmas Eve, 1957, wearing a caliper, a leg iron. And my mum was told that I was always to wear it. My mum is a bit like me and wasn't having any of that. And she started, and it was difficult in those days because there was no internet or anything. She just had to listen to the ways that other polio victims were being treated at my hospital visits. I had to go regularly. And one of the other doctors was an advocate of physiotherapy and swimming and as much movement as possible for the affected limb, because mine is my left leg from the waist down. And so she started leaving the caliper off, except for when I went to the hospital. And she started doing physiotherapy with me every day, following the exercises that she'd seen them do at the hospital. And then I joined the what was then the IPF, International Polio Federation, I think it was called, for swimming lessons when I was a really little girl. I was only 3 or 4 years old. I used to go swimming every week. And that helped strengthen the muscles surrounding the affected limb, although I did still have to have a sole and heel lift on my shoe because the leg had been so badly affected. Obviously, it had been paralysed during the when I was in hospital. And then my mum also decided to take me to dancing class because she'd been a dancer. And so I went to dancing class from about the age of 3 or 4 again. And the two things combined started to strengthen what was left of the muscle, because obviously the muscles that have wasted away, they can never be returned to where they were. You can strengthen them, but they can never be as strong as they were. So I am lopsided. I will always be lopsided, but I'm less lopsided than I would otherwise have been had it not been for my mum and her, some might say, belligerence when it came to listening to the doctor.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm exactly like you as well, Julia. I mean, if someone says no, I think, no, you kind of know in your own mind, no, I'm not accepting that. I know that there's something that can be done, and I know I can do something to make a difference. So, yeah, good on your mum. And your mum, I mean, talking about your mum, how old is your mum?
My mum is 97.
Wow, 97.
Yeah, she's pretty incredible. She still lives independently. She was a ballet teacher until the pandemic. So she was teaching ballet at 92. And then the school where she used to go and teach one Saturday, one day a week, a Saturday, the school actually closed down, and so she stopped teaching. But until that point, she was still choreographing ballet routines, and yeah, very much hands on to the age of 92.
92. She
She does
sounds.
the Times crossword. She does. She's to keep her mind alert,
Yeah.
and she knits lots of baby booties and gloves and hats as well, just to keep
Oh,
herself.
wow. See, that's the secret to the longevity of a long life is you got to knit, keep your mind active, do the Times crossword, do ballet dancing. It's great for you.
Yeah.
She sounds absolutely amazing. And I mean, you defied doctors not only by not having to wear the leg brace, but also you went on to become a professional dancer as well.
Yes, I did. I mean, and I was very lucky because I travelled with it. I did a couple of seasons in, or 3 seasons actually, in the Channel Islands. I did Guernsey my first summer season, then 2 seasons in Jersey. I did pantomimes in Leeds and 2 in Croydon, 1 in Watford. I did the cruise ships. I was lucky enough to go out to Hong Kong. I can always remember the careers teacher at school when I was 16 saying to me, "So what do you want to do when you leave school?" And I said, "Oh, well, I'm going to be a dancer." And he said, "Yes, but what are you going to do to earn money?" And I think that sort of has lived with me throughout my life. I think that was
I'll
me.
prove you wrong, Mr.
Yeah,
Careers Teacher. Yes, exactly. Wow. He
dig
probably,
your yeah, probably helped me out really. But
yes,
dig your heels
exactly.
in, I will do it, and I did, and it was great. I got as far as I could go with it. I did little bits of singing as well in Hong Kong. I did a couple of routines where I was singing "Last Dance," Donna Summer springs to mind.
Brilliant
Um,
song.
I have had. I was very fortunate. I have had some lucky breaks. You mentioned The Price is Right. I auditioned for that. That was recorded in Nottingham, my hometown. So it was lovely. And then I sort of moved into presenting.
We're going to talk about your career in a little bit, but also you do help raise money for the charity Bloodwise. So tell us more about that.
So Bloodwise used to be called Leukemia and Lymphoma Research, and then they changed their title to a more digestible title and one that people would understand better. But in 2012, I had a 360 health check, and one of the blood tests came back a little bit skewed. So it was sent off to a specialist centre. And within 3 days, I was being told I needed to urgently see a consultant haematologist, which I did at UCLH. And they did a bone marrow biopsy that day. And 10 days later, it was confirmed that I had something called chronic myeloid leukemia, which they had, fortunately for me, caught in the fairly early stages. So if it had gone on much longer, I would have been in quite a lot of trouble, because it's where your body makes lots and lots and lots and lots of immature white blood cells, and it crowds everything out and everything else out in your blood. They're not doing anything. They don't develop into good white blood cells. It's just crowding your blood. And the treatment used to have a treatment that was very, very dangerous. And in fact, a Crystal Palace player, our captain, Jeff Thomas, had this same blood cancer, and he had to have this treatment. And it's touch and go whether you're going to survive. It's really serious. But fortunately for me, with all the research, they'd come up with these drugs called tyrosine kinase inhibitors, which are chemotherapy still, but you take them orally, and they work as like a block to your body producing this multitude of immature white blood cells. So I was diagnosed with that in 2012, which was a shock, because I didn't really feel ill. I just felt really tired all the time. And then I started the treatment in May of 2012. So I didn't tell anybody at work. I just carried on through it, but they let me do less hours. They looked after me really well, actually. I kept it a secret because I just wanted to know that I was going to get better, because at the beginning you don't know with these things whether you're going to survive or not. whether the treatment's going to work or not, or whether it is going to get more serious. But fortunately for me, the oral chemotherapy did work. It worked really well. The side effects weren't very pleasant, but I just got on with it because it's better than the alternative. And so my 2012 was a funny old year because obviously in London we had the Olympic Games and everyone was sort of full of the Olympic Games and everything. My son kept saying to me, try and get tickets, spent hours on the phone. A highlight for me was I eventually managed to get tickets to the closing ceremony of the Paralympics in 2012, and that really lifted me.
Oh, wow. Yes, I imagine it did. And actually brings us on to your next song choice.
It does indeed, because the band who were performing at the closing ceremony of the Paralympics in 2012 was Coldplay, and Viva la Vida is kind of a theme tune for me now.
This is Real Life Radio. I'm joined by author and TV presenter Julia Roberts. She's here choosing all the songs for you this evening. Now, Julia, you chose that song because in 2012 you saw Coldplay perform it at the closing ceremony of the London Paralympics. And just prior to that, we were speaking about how you were diagnosed with chronic myeloid leukemia. But you're well on the other side now and in recovery?
Well, I am. There are still sort of very low levels of the disease in my blood, and potentially I should still be taking drugs. However, they're stable, and I've got a great professor at UCLH who allows me to not be on drugs but have regular blood checkups. So yes, I'm not actually in remission, so to speak. There are low levels in my blood, but I am not taking drugs at the moment, and my body seems to be coping. So all good so far.
Oh, brilliant. Great news. And yeah, fingers crossed everything just stays at those low levels for you. We're obviously here to talk about your books, and especially the latest one. It reveals lots and lots of secrets. So I think it's about time that we revealed our secret that we have together. This isn't the very first time we've met. We've known each other for about 15 years now. So do you want to tell them or do you want me to tell them?
Well, I can't believe it's 15 years, Sarah. But
yes,
yes, we both are on screen at QVC. And and interestingly, of course, our husbands know each other, which is really strange because we didn't know that for a while.
It is. It's almost a plot for one of your new books, isn't it? So we knew each other, and then down the line, our husbands, it turns out they knew each other before we even knew each other.
I know, weird, isn't it? That's musicians for you.
Absolutely, yes. So just to let the listener into our little secret, I do guest presenting at QVC, and it has been 15 years because I started just after my eldest child was born, and she's just over 15 now. So that's how I can easily kind of work it out. But yourself, well, I would call you the queen of QVC because you've been there. Yes, the queen of QVC. I think you need like a crown as well because you've been there since day one and was the very first face to appear on the channel back in 1993. So a lot of people have seen you, Julia, because at the moment it's about over 8 million viewers, isn't it, to QVC UK every month?
Yes, I mean the customer base obviously changes depending on what we've had as our special offers and things. But my goodness me, yeah, we have a lot more people these days than we did back in the early days. I think when we launched it on October 1st, 1993, we were talking thousands rather than millions watching. Although we were on news at 10 when it launched, it was quite a news story. It had come over from America, and it was sort of taglined as changing the way the world shops. And little did we know that in a way, that's exactly what it's been, because QVC obviously is now online as well. So you can shop on the internet and the app and every other way of shopping rather than physically walking down your local high street. Not that I necessarily think we shouldn't walk down our local high street as well. It's just nice to have the convenience of both, I think.
Absolutely, yes. And as well, I mean, with QVC, it's more of an education as well, because when you go into a shop, you wouldn't necessarily get somebody showing you how something works, telling you their own experience of how that thing works, how it works in their lifestyle as well. And that's what the beauty of QVC is that you do just explain how things work and how it can actually work in your everyday life as well, which is not necessarily what you'd get if you did walk down the high street and into a shop and think, oh, I like that. Or let's have a look at that item of clothing. Oh, I try it on. But you haven't always got the shop assistant saying, oh, yeah, that would look good with this. And you could wear it with this and you could go out and wear that here. It's good to have that different offering.
I think so. And if you remember back in the day, it was catalogue shopping, wasn't it? This is sort of the next
Yes.
stage
Oh,
from
my
catalogue shopping.
goodness.
But that was just pictures on a page. So you never saw, for example, clothing, you never saw how a fabric moved when you moved. And it was just, and I think you're absolutely right. Lifestyling is what QVC is about. Yes, we show you the products, we give you the item numbers, we tell you the prices, we do all that. But actually, it then becomes more. And also, because we stayed on air during the lockdowns, and it was company for people. So even now that we're thankfully past that phase in all our lives, I think a lot of people still come to us for company. It's almost like having radio, but actually being able to see the person, so to speak. So even if they're not shopping, we're in their living room with them. And I never take that for granted. And you always have to sort of, we're there because they've invited us in, is my sort of attitude.
Absolutely, yes. And as well, I mean, you must get so many messages. And in this day and age, I mean, back in 1993, what was around there? Maybe faxes, phone calls.
Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't emails, I don't think, around them really, and texts to get in touch, and all these different ways you can get in touch now on social media. So, I mean, yes, you must get so many messages from listeners,
I think it's
viewers, should
changed.
I say, not
Viewers,
listeners.
yeah. I think it has definitely changed, because in the early days we used to ask people to ring in. So we used to call them T callers, telephone callers, and
Yeah.
they would come in and they would be part of the show live on air. And if they bought something or if they wanted to ask a question, so we very much integrated our audience right from the get-go. But I think it's changed now. So we do have live video calls with customers now, which we have pre-set up with customers who have tried a certain product. So it is different, but it's still that interaction with the customer. And I think that's why I don't think it's exclusive. I don't think it's sort of, oh, you're not in our gang sort of thing, so you can't be part of it. I hope it's inclusive and people feel, oh, I might do that one day. And that's what we're trying to achieve. It's like a shopping experience altogether for a whole group of people. And sometimes it's really weird. A product inside out and you've got all these things that you say about it. And then just a simple 3 words or something might actually prompt you to say something that you might not otherwise have said. So that's what I enjoy about it. It's conversational television.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the conversation can run anywhere within certain boundaries. But
It does,
yeah,
yes.
so
It goes off on tangents, doesn't it? We like
yeah.
to go off on tangents. And so back in 1993, could you tell us, how did it all start? How did you get the job on QVC?
Oh gosh, right. This is a weird story, really, because I'd been out and got home. And, back in the day, you didn't have mobile phones, right? They didn't exist in 1993, apart from the huge, great big bricks.
The Del Boy
which
phones.
actually, yeah, we did have one because we needed to stay in contact when Chris was gigging. And if I was teaching, I used to teach fitness. If I was teaching, if we had a babysitter looking after the kids and they were out and about and something happened, we had to have a mobile phone. So we did actually have one of the early mobile phones. Anyway, I hadn't got it with me. Chris must have had it with him. The phone was ringing as I was putting the key in the door. And you rush to answer it. You think, I don't know why I'm bothering because it'll stop ringing before I get there.
Yeah.
But it hadn't. And I picked it up and it was my agent at the time. And she said, you're probably not going to want to do this. But they are auditioning for presenters for a new shopping channel, which is starting up. This was in the July, I think. It's starting up in October, and they're looking for presenters. You weren't on the original list. Thanks for telling me.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Yeah, thanks for the confidence boost. Yeah.
But somebody has dropped out, and you were the first reserve, and so they've asked if you can be at Sky Television for your audition at 9 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, very last minute, and I said yes, of course, and I'd love to do it. So that was a manic evening, sort of preparing. I had to prepare an object to talk about for 10 minutes. Well, guess what? I spoke about mobile phones because you know, very few people had them. They were quite a new innovation, and I could lifestyle about having the phone with you in case you broke down, la 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 la. So that was quite easy.
Yeah.
Then, Sarah,
Hmm.
they after doing that, they said, "Yeah, we love that. Here's a pencil. Talk about it for 5 minutes."
Oh
I
my
kid you not.
goodness.
I kid you not. Nothing special about this pencil, just
Yeah.
an ordinary pencil. And I think it's they wanted to see if you could think on your feet.
Yes. Ad lib.
And you would be amazed at what you can find to say about a pencil, truly.
Can you remember, was it a HB pencil or was it like a 2H or something?
I think it was probably an HB. And then I
Mm.
went into, of course, there are all different types of pencils you can get. There's one specific for
Ah.
drawing. So I actually didn't focus entirely just on the pencil. I looked at the bigger picture of different pencils, and yeah. So
Imagine what
it
you're
is.
writing with that. You could write a novel, which I will do like in 20 years' time that I don't actually know yet.
Yeah. Who knew? Who knew? Gosh.
Yeah, wow. So what's been I mean there must have been so many good moments on QVC. But what's been, have you got a funny moment you want to share with us?
There's been some fantastic highlights. I've been very fortunate. We used to do quite a lot of outside broadcasts. We don't do that so much now with the advent of sort of Zoom and things like that. But we used to actually travel to places and do outside broadcasts. I suppose my favorite outside broadcast of all time is going to Atlantis in the Bahamas, Paradise Island, the Bahamas, when it very first opened. So they'd given QVC America a sort of free reign to film there, and we sort of piggybacked on the back of that, and did
Hmm.
live broadcasts from Atlantis back to the UK. So a
Wow.
funny story, when I was there, I'm sure everybody remembers the wonderful late great Joan Rivers, who used to sell her jewelry range on QVC,
Hmm.
and she was there for the American shows, but we also asked her if she would do our show. Absolutely fine. She was great, and she really got the whole concept of QVC. So the American show was due to be broadcast in the evening, because obviously same time zone as America, or certainly the East Coast. And they'd set up this area for her in the garden, and everyone had checked it. It was fine and everything. But what they hadn't realised is the show she would be doing with us was going out live at UK time.
Mm.
So it was actually 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was roasting hot with no shade.
Yeah.
And Joan, bless her, she came out and she said, "Well, I can't sit in the full sunshine for 2 hours." So we were 5 minutes to going live to
Yeah.
air. This is a brand new resort, remember,
Uh-huh.
that they dragged across two pergola that you would put over sunbeds, strapped them together with cable ties, and then proceeded, this is the great bit, to saw off the middle two legs. So one leg from each of the pergolas, so that it wasn't right down the center of the frame, so that
Oh
we
my
could go live
goodness.
with Joan Rivers. Yeah. Honestly,
How on earth did they have a saw so handy as well? Oh, hang
well,
on, we've
you'd be
got a tool
amazed.
show coming up a little bit later on. Quick, get that saw that we're saying later.
I don't know. I think it was probably one of the ground staff at the resort.
Yeah.
But they were so, and apparently back in the UK, I think it was Charlie on air, sort of cover it, or on the show before, and he
Mm.
was about to throw to me, and they just said to him, "Right, you need to just cover for about a minute." Because you couldn't come to us live with people sawing the leg off these
Oh my
pergolas. But
goodness.
and she honestly, she just took it completely in her stride, as you would totally expect her to. And it was like nothing had ever happened. Nothing to see here.
Oh my
Funny
goodness.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lovely story. But is there a certain kind of type of product that you prefer talking about on QVC, whether it be beauty, fashion, the DIY stuff, the technology?
So I can tell you what I don't like, much easier than telling you what I do like.
Oh, okay.
I don't like technology. I'm a massive technophobe. They like putting me on technology shows because I ask
Probably because
the
you've said that.
idiot idiot question. No, because I ask the idiot questions, so it brings it back to basics rather than assuming that everybody understands technology, which everybody doesn't, you know.
No.
If you're of my generation, you have less understanding, generally speaking, of technology than someone younger, because we didn't grow up with it. So we didn't learn it at a stage where our brain was fully absorbing everything, you know, in your at school, in your school days, that nothing like that was around.
Yeah,
So I don't like
absolutely.
technology. And I have got a favorite product, and it
Yes.
is my Pilates machine. They have Pilates studios and they have something called a reformer machine. And we sell or sold, I'm not sure if we still do, something called a Pilates performer machine, which does it works in a similar way. And I've had mine for probably 25 years and I still use it at least 3 times a week, sometimes more. So yeah, that is my best purchase and my favorite purchase ever from QVC.
So what's that, like a sort of a vibration plate or something? When you say
No, no, no.
machine, I mean, how
Oh,
big is
oh,
it?
no, those power plates. No, I hated those. They used to sort of make my brain rattle against my skull. No, I really didn't like those. No,
Mhm.
it's like a platform, and you move the platform up and down with resistance cords, and then you also have sort of straps where you put your feet in the straps and you do almost balletic moves, really, which is probably why I
Why you
like it.
like it?
Yeah, because my background was in dancing. So, and it was actually developed, the Pilates system was actually developed by a guy called Joseph Pilates as a rehab for ballet dancers back in the 1920s. It's
Wow.
a system of exercise that has been around for almost 100 years and is still as effective today. In fact, more people doing it today than ever before. So I really rate it. Have
Wow,
you
it
never
does
tried
sound
it,
good.
Sarah?
No, I've never tried it. No, I'm going
Oh,
to have a
wow.
look online and see if we still sell it. I mean, because I'm all about the core strength. That's the building block for the rest of you, isn't it? To keep the rest of you strong is the core
Absolutely.
strength.
I think it is all about core strength. If you haven't got a good core, you can't perform the exercises properly. So you gradually build up your core strength and then you can do the exercises properly. So yeah, I'm a massive fan. You should try. I'll tell you what there is doing the rounds at the moment. Wall Pilates. Everybody's talking about wall Pilates and how
What, you just need a wall to do
you
it?
just need a wall, so you don't need a machine.
Ah,
Obviously you don't have the resistance, so you don't get any kind of resistance workout, but
yeah.
you can utilize the wall for resistance for certain exercises. So that might be worth a bit of research, Sarah.
Oh, okay. I'll have a look at that. Yeah, I've got plenty of walls that are in need of decoration. So I'll look at them and go, oh my goodness, that needs a paint while I'm looking at it. And that'll distract me from actually thinking about that I'm actually doing some exercise at the time as well. You and I, we could talk about QVC to the cows come home. I mean, we could do a whole radio show talking about things that happen on that and the ins and outs of it. But we are here to talk about your books and we're here to play some music as well. So let's go on to your next song choice. What have you chosen?
Well, I have been at QVC, as you say, since 1993, which is over 30 years, approaching 31. And sometimes it does actually feel like 1,000 years. So, 1,000 Years by Christina Perri was the song that I walked down the aisle to when Chris and I finally got married in August 2019. I walked down the aisle on my son's arm because we lost my dad a few years ago. And he almost ruined everything by whispering to me, Bobby would have been so proud of you. Bobby was his pet name for my dad. Bobby would have been so proud of you. So this song truly, truly has a very special place in my heart.
Christina Perri, 1,000 years here on Real Life Radio. Very good evening to you. I'm Sarah Book. I hope you're enjoying all the songs that have been picked for you this evening. They've been picked by author and TV presenter Julia Roberts, who's still joining me on the show. Hello, Julia.
Hi, still here.
Still here. Oh, we could talk to the cows come home. We're going to talk about your writing once again now, because obviously you've got your new book out, just come out, called My Daughter's Lies. So have a look on Amazon. It's available on Amazon. Really, really good read. But can I just ask you, in the life of a writer, can you tell me, like, what does a fantastic day's writing look like? A day in the life of a writer?
Well, I think all writers are different, but the perfect day for me, I tend not to write on days when I'm working at QVC because I like to have a really good long stretch of being able to sit down at my desk. So on a writing day, I have a writing room at the top of my house with a nice desk that I was treated to for Christmas. just straight after breakfast, I'll come upstairs, I'll read what I've written the previous day, just so I get into the flow quickly. And then I just think, right, okay, let's carry on with the story. So I like to get probably a couple of hours writing done before lunch, sometimes 3. Yeah, I've got one of those
Wow.
watches that keeps prompting you to get up. You need to get up and move around. And I'm thinking, oh, in a minute.
Just get
So
really
yeah,
into it and like, no, I can't move.
I would say I'm probably more creative in the morning. I have lots of ideas in the morning, but sometimes it takes me an hour to actually start really getting back into the plot and the flow of things and getting back into my characters. So I'll have a break for lunch and then I come back up and then I'll usually do another maybe 2 or 3 hours in the afternoon. So on a writing day, I can write for as much as 6 or 7 hours. I tend not to read through what I've written at the end of the day because I think you're tired by then. And I think you just look at it all and you'd be tempted to press delete. So what I then do is look at it the next time I sit down at my desk to write. And I am a pantser. Before you even ask the question, I know there are 2 types of writer, really. There are plotters and pantsers. I'm a bit of a plotter because you have to have a general idea of the direction you're moving in. But I do, just like our conversations when we're on air together, I do go off on tangents. And sometimes
Yeah.
I'll have planned which way I'm going. And then the whole story takes over me. And I think, actually, no, this is way better. And it just changes as I'm sitting at my desk writing. So it's lovely being able to write. It's really liberating because at that stage of the writing process, it's all about you and your idea and you're in control. Because in the latter stages, when it comes to the rounds of editing that you do with your publisher, it's then a joint effort. It's their suggestions and how you deal with what they've suggested. It then becomes a joint process, whereas the early stages are just you and the keyboard, really.
You lost within yourself. So when you're writing for like 6 hours in a day, I mean, how much would you get done of a book in those 6 hours? I guess it varies.
It really does. Sometimes you hit a really rich vein. When I was writing my second novel, If He Really Loved Me, I spent a lot of time. My son at the time was a coach for Swansea City Academy, and he lived in Swansea. And I would get in the car to go and see him, but it would also be to give me a lot of time to write because, as you know, when you've got a busy, hectic life and you've got a partner, it's really difficult sort of just shutting them out of your life for the
Yeah.
entire day. It feels rude somehow, but actually you really just want to get on and do what you're doing. So I used to go down and see my son in Swansea, and he would go to work in the morning and I wouldn't see him till, sometimes 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. I would get so much done. I could write as much as 5 chapters in a day,
Wow.
just because I would break my day up. I would write in the morning. I would go for a walk along he lived next to a river, get a little bit of shopping, come back, have a quick lunch, get back to my writing. Then I'd sort of probably do a bit of preparation for whatever we were going to have for dinner. And then I'd carry on writing till he got back from work. Those days were incredibly productive and so focused because I didn't have to consider anybody but me. When I'm at home, obviously, he's very good and he does write as well. He writes music, but I just feel we need to connect at some point during the day. So there's slightly more pressure to not be so selfish with your time.
Well, there's always the thing of like, are you hungry? Do you want me to start dinner yet? Or, it's all those
Yeah,
questions, isn't it? And whereas when you're just left to your own devices, you think, I'm just going to power on through here. I'm a little bit peckish, but no, I'm not going to stop. Otherwise, it'll ruin my flow. So I'm just going to not eat
exactly.
until later on. So it is nice to just be in your own little world and own little zone. And that's when it comes to actually reading the book, you're in your own little world, your own little zone. It is kind of your me time when you get lost in a book. Sit and read a book and get engrossed in it and not have any disturbances is really nice. And I guess, it must be exactly the same when you're writing that book too.
Yeah, it really is. You've hit the nail on the head because although I love reading, and I really do find that the only time I can properly get into a book is when I am actually on holiday, sort of either sitting by a pool or sitting under a parasol on a beach. I can read 3 or 4 books when I'm away on holiday in a 10-day holiday. I feel less able to do that in my busy everyday life. downside, I will be honest with you, of being a writer, and Chris gets really cross with me for this,
Mm.
because I have written crime as well as emotional women's drama. We could be watching a crime series on TV, and I'll say so and so and so and so, and he says, you know you've just spoilt that for me, don't you? Because I've second guessed how the writer has where they've gone next. Sadly, I am 9 out of 10 times right, and it does spoil things a bit for Chris. He does get quite cross with me, but yeah.
Oh,
And
does
he's
he
not a reader at all. He doesn't read at all.
has he
So
read all your books?
no,
No.
he's no, he's had some of them, sort of bits of them read to him, and the majority of my books, all the ones with Bookature, are on audiobook. So he has listened to them on audiobook, because on car journeys, I'll say, do you want me to put the book on? Oh, yeah, that's a great idea.
Mm.
So he has now listened to all the books, and he's very supportive, Sarah. I mean, he just is, you know. He said, oh, I really do love the way you write, because it just almost sounds like you talking, you know, the way you talk, you write in that same genre. And he also made a very interesting comment. He said, you almost write picturing what it would be like if it was on TV or in a film. And I think he's right. I do. I visualize everything. And
Yeah.
it's the same with all the characters talking to each other, conversations and things. Sometimes I even say them out loud, just so that I can actually get a feel for whether it sounds like somebody talking or not.
Well,
Does
that's the
that
whole
sound
point
weird?
of books. No, that's not weird. I mean, that's the whole point with books, isn't it? Most TV dramas, films, they've stemmed from a book. But who knows? I mean, that could be the next thing, Julia. We could have one of your books turned into a TV drama. I was saying that with your latest book, My Daughter's Lies. I mean, I could actually just you setting a scene of that book and just reading the synopsis of it. You can really picture that in your mind, and you can imagine that happening, you know. So I can just see that at the start of like a 6-part mini series on the television, where the mother's up there standing, and she reads that note, drops out the book. Oh, I can visualize that totally. We need to get onto that one. Right, okay.
Let's form a production company, Sarah, and do it ourselves.
Hey, why not? You know what? Let's put our wealth of experience together. We've both got our musician husbands that can write the theme tune for it. Perfect.
We sound a bit like that Dennis Waterman thing.
Yeah,
What was
write
it?
the
Write the theme tune, sing the theme tune.
star in the show.
Yeah.
Be a cheap production in that sense. We won't pay them much, pay them in kind.
Yeah, exactly. Cake.
Yes, exactly. Right, okay, let's go on to your next song choice. What have you chosen next?
Well, actually, this harks back once again to our wedding in Mauritius, because I don't see much of Chris during the days when I'm writing. Unbeknown to me, he had been in touch with our daughter, because Sophie used to sing. She was with a couple of different bands. She has a really great voice, but I didn't know that she had learnt the words to this song. And the night before the wedding, there was a band playing at the resort, and she said, "Oh, I think I'll go and ask them if I can sing with them." And I'm thinking, that's
Oh,
weird, because Sophie never does anything like that. That really, really? Anyway, she gets up on stage, and there's a sort of bit of a conversation. And then the notes for You're Still the One start, and she started to sing it. Honestly, I mean, I'm an emotional wreck anyway, but I was in floods. I was so proud of her for learning a song that she was unfamiliar with, and then having, you know, the courage to get up and sing it in front of everybody. And she did
wow.
a fabulous job. So my next song choice is Shania Twain with You're Still the One.
Shania Twain, you're still the one here on Real Life Radio. I'm Sarah Booker, and I'm joined by the lovely Julia Roberts, author and TV presenter. She's choosing the songs for you this evening. Now, Julia, we've spoken about your career on QVC, but before that, you were no stranger to television, because I've got here that you previously appeared in Beatles About, The Price is Right, and numerous adverts. Plus, you were also a dancer and singer, and I believe your first band was called Jules and the Fools. Is that right?
You've been doing your research, Sarah.
I love that name. I was like, I've got to mention Jules and the Fools. I like that. So tell me
Yeah.
more about your early life, your early career.
Well, having been told, you know, that you couldn't be a dancer as a career, and what are you going to do for a proper job by your careers teacher at school, obviously you then get a job as a dancer, don't you? That's what everyone does,
Yes,
isn't it? Yeah.
absolutely.
Um,
Yes.
so yeah, I did my first summer season was in Guernsey in the Channel Islands. I worked with Double Act Cannon and Ball. They weren't even top of the bill actually. It was before they were famous. And then I did a pantomime at City Varieties in Leeds, which ran from the first week of December to the second week of April. Yes, it
That
really
is
did
a
run
long
beyond Easter.
panto. Doing Christmas into Easter. Yeah. Merry Christmas. Oh no, happy Easter.
It was, in
Wow.
fairness, it was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, so it kind of the story carried a bit. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
was a
not
long
just
one.
a Christmassy theme, is it? No, that's a classic.
And then I went to work in Jersey for a summer season, and then I did the cruise ships, cruising around the Caribbean.
So, Jules and the Falls, when did that come into the equation?
So I'd done a song for Europe with a group called The Main Event with Cheryl Baker the year before she auditioned and obviously performed in Bucks Fizz. So that was the year before. We didn't get through. I think we came last actually in the Song for Europe. So we didn't go.
So you competed to be the UK entry for a song for
Yeah,
Europe.
yeah. So that was my sort of first foray really into being in a band. And then Chris and I write songs, or did. I don't actually really have much time to do the lyrics
In
anymore. So
between your QVC work, your other TV presenting,
yeah.
you writing novels. No, Julia, that's just not on. I mean, why haven't you got the time to still sing with Jules and the Fools?
Yeah, so we'd come up with some songs. It was in the early 80s. It's just before I did Price is Right. And we'd sent out some demo tapes and got called into a couple of record companies and got signed to a company called Casey Recordings, I think it was. And they had another label and they had a big hit with Eddie, I Don't Want to Dance. Do
Eddie
you remember that song?
Grant. Yes,
Grant, that's it. I don't want to dance. Yeah. So
good
it was
tune.
his record label. And of course, the moment that broke, it was just like all the attention was on him. So it was a shame for us that we'd signed, we'd done the masters, everything was recorded. They'd been sent out to a couple of things like the Tube and things like that. It just kind of fizzled, and I got prices right. So it didn't really take off. We weren't a live gigging band. It was always going to be a studio band. It was the
Mm,
80s, and that was kind of the thing then.
yeah.
But yeah, it was a shame. And it was just myself with Chris and a bass player that Chris had worked with for years called Paul Townsend, who was great at doing all the licks and slaps on the bass. And we had a bit of fun doing the recordings. And it was back in the days when, everything's done digitally now.
Yes.
Well, it was all recorded on 2-inch reel-to-reel tapes. And when they were doing edits, they would physically cut the tape and
Snip the
splice
tape
it
and
together. Yeah.
yeah.
It was a fun time, but somewhere my career path had been preordained and it wasn't to be top of the charts. Although, funnily enough, I did send a demo tape for a song called, and it was a big hit, Clouds Across the Moon. It was an advert that appeared in, I think it was the Melody Maker, and it just asked you to send tapes in. And Chris did a demo of me singing it because they sent the backing tape out, and then we recorded my voice over it. And they were going to use me right up to the last minute, and then they decided that the songwriter should be the vocalist along with her. I think it was her husband. So on the Top of the Pops appearance that I had been hoping was going to be me, it was her. So
It was her. Oh, yes,
almost,
I do remember that song, Clouds Across the
yeah,
Moon, the Ra Band.
that's it. Yeah, the Raw
It was
Band.
written by
Yeah.
Richard Anthony Hewson, and that's why they're called the Ra Band. Very imaginative there.
Yeah. So yeah, I've had a few almost, near misses with
Wow.
in the music
Different
industry.
bits. It's all in the
Yeah.
entertainment industry, isn't it? It's just so good that you've got so many different strings to your bow. I mean, if one path didn't work out, you can just turn your talents to another one because you're a good all-rounder in that sense, dancing, singing, presenting, writing
Although
now.
what is it they say, Sarah?
Mm.
Jack of all trades and master of none.
Yes. Yes, I kind of put myself in that bracket as well. Yeah. Right, okie dokie. So we're going to go on to your next song choice. What is it?
I think I've had to deal with quite a lot of adversity in my life right from the get-go with the polio and everything. And it does sometimes feel like, you get knocked down and it's a struggle to get back up again. But then that is life's journey, to learn things, and it changes us. So I'm not the same person I was in my 20s. I like to think that I'm kinder than I was in my 20s and more willing to listen to other people's opinions. I think I was very opinionated as a sort of
I think we
young
all
person.
are, aren't we, when we're younger?
Yeah, we think we know everything, and of course we don't. I think life is a journey, and I love this next song. It's almost my anthem, mountains to climb, and sometimes we have to accept defeat. It's Miley Cyrus and The Climb.
This is Real Life Radio. I'm joined by Julia Roberts, author and TV presenter extraordinaire. Written her new book, which is out now, My Daughter's Lies. Have a look at it on Amazon. It's available in audiobook and ebook too. So, Julia, being a writer yourself, what advice would you give to aspiring writers?
Well, there is that thing, isn't there, about everyone thinks they've got a book in them. And honestly, I think most people probably have. My best advice to anybody who wants to write is to start doing it. And I know that sounds really silly. I didn't have any training. I finished school when I was 16. I did my O levels, which they were called back in the day. And I did do English language and English literature, and I got decent marks in them. I had no higher education at all. I didn't do A levels. I didn't go to university, but I've always loved writing. And I think I've always wanted to write, and that's the point. And I've tried a few times. And then suddenly, if you read a lot and you want to do it and you come up with an idea, you just have to park your bottom on a chair in front of a computer and start to do it. And it won't all come out right at the beginning. You'll read it back and you think, well, that's a load of rubbish. No one's ever going to read that. It's perseverance. You've just got to think, okay, well, let's approach this differently and make it more readable. Come up with the idea, have a beginning, a middle, and an end. So you've got your whole plot, because you can go off at tangents during the story, but you need to have a strong start, a good middle, and a good end. Then you sit your bottom down on a chair, you start to write it, you do your first draft. I edit as I go along, but then that's down to the individual writer. You can edit at the end if you want to. And then when you've done your first draft, if you're going to self-publish, get yourself an editor. If you are going to submit to agents or like Bookouture, they will take direct submissions from writers. You don't have to have an agent. I would still get an editor. And the reason I say that is because if you've got something that is slightly better honed and has had another pair of eyes on it, you will be in with a better chance of somebody's going, wow, this is really good, and with a few tweaks, we can make this great. So they would be my best tips. Just do it, but make sure that what you present to either a publisher or an agent is the best it can possibly be. Because remember, that's the first time that someone will have seen your work, and first impressions really count.
Absolutely, yes. And as well, I mean, like you say, edit it down, because it's a busy world out there. People haven't got time to read long-winded things. And if things are too, you want something that just grips you. Professionals, they can tell whether a book's going to grip them or not, probably in a very short space of time.
Yeah, I think so. And it is about trying to make sure that your first chapter is as strong as it can possibly be. And I always like a twist, Sarah, but that's just me. I like people to be thinking it's going to end a certain way, and then
it doesn't, and you surprise them. I think that's a great trait to have, definitely. Yeah, you don't want to guess it, do you? Want them to go, well, I never saw that coming.
Do you know, and half the time, if I'm dead honest with you, I didn't. Very quickly.
You said about when you're going to give it to a publisher, once you've got this written piece of work for aspiring writers. You said about Bookouture, for example. So you don't have to be an established writer to try and get your book out there. You can just approach publishing companies. You can just approach editors and just say, this is my idea. What do you think? I mean, everyone's got to start somewhere, basically.
Yeah, and the best thing to do is to look for the digital first publishers, because remember, because they're digital first, they're not investing massive amounts of money in printing up paperback or hardback copies of your work. So they're more likely to give an unknown a chance than a traditional publisher would. I'm not saying a traditional publisher wouldn't if it's a really brilliant idea, but digital first publishers are more likely to give an unknown a chance. So there's a company called, I think there's one called Boldwood, Storm, Canelo, Booker. These are, look online and look for digital first publishers, and you are more likely to be able to submit directly to them without needing an agent. And they'll come back to you and they'll be nice, and they'll either say, yes, we think it's great, or no, this is not for us. And also, don't be disheartened, because there's a lot of rejection when you first start pitching. And it's not because they don't like your work, it's because they may have something similar. So one of their other writers has written something similar and they don't want to be repeating what someone else has already written. So it's not that it's not a good idea. It's
It's
just too
just not the
similar to
right
something
place
they
at the
have.
right time
Yeah,
and for the right people.
exactly.
Lovely.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Lovely advice, Julia. It's really good. Thank you. So, bringing us on to our next song choice then.
Well, quite appropriately, really. I absolutely love virtually anything by Lewis Capaldi.
He's great.
Yeah, I just love him. But I thought the most appropriate song of his for aspiring writers is "Wish You the Best."
There's Lewis Capaldi. Wish you the best here on Real Life Radio. I'm Sarah Booker, and I've been joined this evening by Julia Roberts, author and TV presenter. Now, Julia, our time is almost at an end. I feel like we've written a novel with this interview this evening.
I know what you mean, and probably we need an editor to just trim it all down a bit.
I think we do, yes. You've picked some great song choices and you have only one song choice left. But before that, I'm going to make you make another choice, okay? Out of the
Ooh.
11 novels, the 2 novellas, your numerous short stories, and your memoir, 100 Lengths of the Pool, which one would you take with you to a desert island?
Oh, now that's a tricky one, because just like your children, you shouldn't have favourites, should you? Let's be honest.
Definitely
But
not, no. Even though you do. It
um,
depends, though, which one's behaving at the time. But hey.
yeah, a desert island. So there'd be a beach. So it probably should be one of the ones that's got beach in the title. So I think probably it's got to be the first novel, hasn't it? Life's a Beach. And then I loved writing it, and there was lots going on, twists and turns, and it does leave you on a tiny weeny bit of a cliffhanger. And there's a very, 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 very sad bit in it, which one of our other lovely guests at QVC, Jill Gauntlet, she was reading it
Love
when it
Jill.
first came out, and she walked along the corridor, and I won't give the character's name because it will spoil it for anyone who wants to read it, but she did say to me, "You're not going to let her die, are you?"
And were you like, what are you talking about? What, who?
No,
And then it clicked.
I was thinking to myself, oh gosh, yes, well, I'm not going to even comment on that. I just said, you'll have to finish reading it.
Yeah. Oh
But
my
yeah,
goodness. You know what? I've got
yeah.
that book. You so kindly gave me that book as well at QVC. And I must admit, I mean, just because I've got 3 small children, they're not so small anymore, but they were very small when you gave me that book. And I haven't read it. It's there. It's there on my bedside cabinet, waiting to be read. And I'm going to do exactly the same. I mean, I only get chance really to read on holiday. And because it says life's a beach, I'm like, yes, I want to be sat by a swimming pool, by a
How many
beach.
holidays have you taken it on with you? Come on, own up.
All right, yes, okay, I'll confess. I've taken it on at least 3 holidays with me, and there it's been in my travel bag, made its way to the beach as well, and then I just haven't got the chance to read it. So I do apologise. That's really bad of me, isn't it? Really bad. So
No,
yes,
you're busy.
yes.
And I apologise, because actually those first 4 self-pub books are not available on audio. So you can't even lie there with your earpods in and listen to it on audio. That's something else I need to get sorted out.
See, yeah,
Yeah.
then I could have listened to it when I went on a run or something like that, couldn't I? So yeah, it's
Yes,
your fault,
exactly.
Julia. It's not my own bad fault because
Okay,
I'm blaming my
blame
children.
me.
Right, okay, well, thank you so much for joining me this evening. It's been lovely chatting, lovely, all your song choices as well. I've enjoyed listening to the music. I wish you every success with your new book, which is My Daughter's Lies, a book about family secrets and lies. So just remind us how we get hold of it and a brief synopsis.
Well, yeah, it is released now. You can buy it through Amazon in either paperback, ebook, or, as we just discussed, audiobook. You can also go into Waterstones and independent bookshops and ask them to order it in for you. Some libraries order it in too.
Fabulous. And then just remind us of the storyline.
The storyline, really, it seems like it's all about a note which is found when the mother, Melissa, stands up at her daughter Ruby's 18th birthday party to give a speech telling everybody how wonderful her daughter is. And a note flutters to the floor and it says on it, "She's not who you think she is." Melissa doesn't know whether the note refers to Ruby, her daughter, which is the most obvious thought, or whether, in fact, it might relate to her because she wasn't meant to give the speech. Her husband, Steve, was. Maybe someone has found out her secret and wants Steve to find out about it. Or potentially it could even be a secret kept by her best friend, Sadie. Melissa doesn't know, we don't know, and that runs through the book. The timeline does jump forward and backwards a little bit. So if you don't like a timeline that does that, this is probably not the right book for you, but it does work with the story. And it's all about relationships, really. It's the relationship between Melissa and her own mother, Linda, which is slightly fractured. It's about the relationship between Melissa and her daughter, Ruby, and also Sadie, who has been Melissa's best friend since she was 11 years old. It's a book about relationships. There's lots of different daughters. We just don't know which daughter has not been truthful. And we're just going to leave it there.
On a cliffhanger, which compels me to go out and get the book. So yes, as Julia said, My Daughter's Lies by Julia Roberts. You can find it at lots of different bookshops, even the library, and online and on Amazon. So get that book now and find out who on earth that note is written about. Now, Julia, it brings us on to your final song choice. So what is it?
Well, as I say, the book starts at Ruby's 18th birthday party, and it's a musicals themed party where everybody is dressed up in their favourite character from a musical. I'm a bit of an emotional musical goer. I cried at Hamilton, I cried at Les Mis, but I was watching Britain's Got Talent a few weeks ago, and somebody auditioned singing a song that reduced me to tears, and I didn't know what it was. I had to go onto YouTube, look it up. I didn't even know the title, but it turns out that it is a song from Ghost the Musical, which I believe the music was written by Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics, and it's called With You.